Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and you'll see me check from time to time. So feel free to join the conversation. Today's guest, Chef Jerome Brown, or Chef Rome as he likes to be called, is passionate about being a chef and the preparation of meals, its execution, and its ability to feed one's soul. His career has led to Chef Rome Enterprises, Black Eden Limited, co-owner of Elevate Restaurant, Chef Rome Publishing, Celeb's Choice Salad Dressings. His recent cover on the Indie Post magazine states, "From Southern roots to global plates, cooking for celebrities, presidents, and kings with Chef Jerome Brown." Let's get cooking with Chef Rome.
Hello, Dara. How are you?
I'm doing great. Always hanging by a thread when going live. Thank you for doing this.
Thank
Other
you
than
for
doing
having me.
the show today, what's on your plate to be done?
Oh my God! So I'm literally cooking right now. I have peach cobblers getting ready to go into the oven, and I got a lot going on. A couple of meetings and so on. So I'm trying to understand why you're a frustrated baker.
Because cooking is more an art. It's a little this, a little of that. You know,
Okay.
I'm sitting tonight. I came back from vacation. I got 6, 7 pounds extra on me. So it's like no additional salt, this,
Oh,
that, and the other. So I went and I picked up veggies. So I saw fennel,
mm,
cucumber, celery,
wow.
tomatoes. What else did I pick up? I have scallions.
Oh,
I made a saute of celery the other night, and it's like, oh, and I have the haricot vert, the string beans, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's going to be part of dinner. So if you have any suggestions, fennel,
absolutely,
string
absolutely.
beans.
I love the pair fennel with seafood and different tomato type sauces. Always work well for me. I even use it in my lasagna, as well as just some of my pasta dishes. Different sauces. I love fennel. That
Yeah.
licoricey taste to it is just just brings that nice oomph
Well, I
to.
do have some mandarins and I have some spinach, so I might do a salad of the orange and the
There you
fennel
go. You like
and the
crab? Add crab to that.
have crab today.
Yeah, lump crab. Add some lump crab to that dish.
Well, you know what? I do have some pasteurized crab meat in the
There you go.
fridge
There
because
you
I
go.
buy it because I never know when I'm going to be moved to make something. But I think you might have just resolved all that. Um, I want to talk about your family table. And I've listened to some podcasts and things about your family table in two parts: the family table you grew up in and
Mhm.
how important the family table is to you.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. My mom, and I tell this story often. My mom was the oldest girl of 23 children, and they grew up on the farm. My grandfather was a sharecropper, and they raised or grew the food that they ate, whether it's protein or whether it's fresh vegetables and so on. And my grandmother was an amazing cook, and I guess she would have to be with all those children. But then so was my mother. I remember her. We would. I lived in Jersey growing up, and we would come down to North Carolina. We call it going down south every summer, and to see the garden that was her personal garden, that was always a treat. That was always something we look forward to. The fresh tomatoes off the vine, cabbage straight out the ground, berries off in their natural state. We would just pull off the vine and would just eat. Didn't rinse anything off, we just eat it. And that was the basis of who I am. If you eat natural and clean at all, or organic, you'll find quickly that you can't duplicate that. You can't just duplicate that taste. It's like going to Italy and having pasta that was made from scratch right then and there, right before you ate it. You can't duplicate that. You know what I mean? With store-bought items. And it's the same way. So that's really what my family table was like for me. So we have 5 chefs in the family.
5. Okay.
5. Yeah. So can you imagine what that's like, and when you're talking about eating different cuisines and different approaches to food?
Well,
It's
I can
amazing.
see a family reunion being quite challenging, though you're
Yeah,
used to cooking in
yeah,
quantity, but I
yeah,
can imagine. Um, I sort of know my mother was one of 9, my father was one of 7.
yeah.
So I have sufficient relatives.
Right.
Many are gone. I'm the youngest of the first cousins. So
Yeah. Okay.
um, let's talk. I want to talk about that moment and your skill at age 7. And there's many parts to this.
Right.
So you watched your mom make pancakes.
Right. Yeah. And I thought I could duplicate what I saw. I was very artistic as a child. I was able to see something and draw it. And so for me, cooking was pretty much the same thing. I watched what she did, and I had a great memory at the time, and just got up the next day and tried to duplicate it. And I have to say tried because I burnt pancakes. There was stacks of pancakes all over the kitchen, and so for me, it was an effort, and she sat there and she ate it. The only thing
Right.
she said is turn down the flame, is too high.
Yeah, which that's when you had talked about that previously. And I think
Yeah,
um, you said to the effect of parents. I mean, many parents could have screamed at you, look what you did, blah, blah, blah.
that's
She
right.
said, turn down the flame.
It's
So
too high.
there was that moment where she supported you.
That's
How
right.
other parents in raising their child before you blow your stack, am I supporting my child? How can I do this without going off the deep end? With
Yeah,
if they took crayons and wrote on the wall or did a picture.
right. Right. That's a great time to introduce them to a canvas.
Yes, that's
Draw
absolutely
this, not this. But I oftentimes tell parents and adults, that yeah, that cultivate what you're seeing in your child at an early age. It's easier for me to go in the kitchen and just cook something than to take the moment to show a child how to do it. But that patience, you just never know what that's going to turn into. They may become the next great, whatever it is, right? Just
right.
because of the moment that you took to cultivate that gift that was discovered at an early age.
Right. And as children, we tend to emulate our parents and what
That's
they
right.
do.
That's right.
So, the thing, my mother was a great cook. She used to go bowling, so I got on a bowling league at one point. So, you emulate, and you're setting the tone.
Mhm.
Um, I talk every show about the family table because I just think it's vitally important nowadays with all that's going on is to get that unity of family back together. But I harp on that way too much. In life, we travel a journey, and at
Right.
some point, there's a road that goes left and a road that goes right,
That's right.
right? Can
Correct.
you tell us a bit about your choice or that split in the road where you went, maybe not this, maybe that?
I think for me, it was in right before right before I went into the military. I had always wanted to be an attorney, and in my 11th grade year, I had an English teacher who went around the class and she said, uh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everyone's giving answers. And I said, I want to be a lawyer. And she said, oh, that's too hard for you. And I'm, and unfortunately, I had so much respect for her that I believed her, even though I always had a love and a passion for law. Cooking was my hobby, at least so I thought. What
Yeah.
it did was it made me realize that I also had a passion. So when I went into the US Army, I went in as a cook because I thought this is something I can do. And then, of course, we get older and we become mature and we look back on life and we're like, now, why did I listen to that? Why didn't I? Now, fortunately for me, I think the fact that I am who I am in the culinary world, that it is what I'm supposed to do and was always supposed to do. However, who's to say I couldn't have done both,
Yeah. Right.
right? So that would be the example for me in that.
Teachers can be wonderful things, and then they can do other things. And a short story that people have heard in graduating high school, they tested us all to sing. I had 750 in my graduating year. They tested everyone because the song was When You Walk Through a Storm. So they
Mhm.
tested me and they said, just move your lips, don't sing. So I won't sing. I don't sing in front of people.
Wow. Wow.
That's what it did to me.
Yeah,
But
words are powerful.
yes, they
Words are
are.
powerful. We have to be really careful what we say. So,
Um, you talked about the Army. You got certified as a chef while you were there,
mhm.
and you traveled the world. You were in Korea,
Yes,
and whereas you were cooking American food, you learned Korean food because there were Korean soldiers, katsusas,
Katusas, yeah.
katusas.
Katusas, yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole new flavor profile that, the boy from the South had not seen.
And absolutely right. But it was so intriguing, the different flavors and combinations and steps to creating those flavors. I immediately grasped to those. We had an executive chef in our dining facility named Mr. Kim. And Mr. Kim was this old gentleman. He was short and stubby and a real smart aleck. But we loved him, right? And he would say, come, Brown. They call you by your last name. Come, I show you. I said, Mr. Kim, you gonna show me how to do this? Yeah, I show you. Come, shut up, listen. And every day I had to bring him something Americanized so he would teach me something different, right? So whenever I wanted to learn something different, I would go to Mr. Kim and say, Mr. Kim, I have this for you. And he said, what do you want to know? What do you want? And he would
Do you
teach me.
remember a specific item and what it changed to, or
Bulgogi. So bulgogi is Korea's national dish, along with kimchi, of course. But I really wanted to learn step by step how to properly make it. And I've been that way all over the world with different executive chefs in different countries. Show me authenticity. Show me the hard way of doing this. I want to know because what it does is it expanded who I am as a chef. It expanded my repertoire. It gave me ideas of how to combine two different cuisines, with different approaches to that. And I've learned to try to incorporate, and have these different fusions between two or three different cuisines.
right?
Yeah,
Um, just so guests know, you were raised in New Jersey, but you ended up going down to North Carolina and living there and
right,
hanging out at the local barbecue joint before you
right.
joined the Army.
Gardener's
Uh,
barbecue.
and so you did the Army, you went to work for a country club, and then opportunity at Disney opened.
right.
And that must have been a great education unto itself.
Disney is a continuous education, and that's just like going to college, but for whatever your specific field. Disney brought me in through their professional recruitment department, and so when I became a cast member, um, one of the things I learned from Michael Eisner, and other executive chefs, Chef Rolfe, and those who were there at the time, Johnny Rivers and such, was time management, uh, consistency, and your approach to cuisine, and of course, always satisfy the customer. Not that the customer is always right, but satisfy the customer.
That's
That's right.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Find a
Um,
way to say yes.
all right. So you're working at Disney. The next step was personal chef, chef to the stars.
Mhm.
How was that transition? What was the break? What door opened for you that let you create this business, Chef to the Stars? There had to be an opportunity, something on that
Isaac
road.
Isaac Austin. There's a great former NBA player named Alonzo Mourning. And that at the time, Alonzo Mourning had kidney challenges. And so the Miami Heat brought in his backup center position, and his name was Isaac Austin. He had such a tremendous series. They were in the playoffs. Mourning couldn't go. He stepped up, got great. He got traded that summer and signed by the Orlando Magic. I was living in Orlando, Disney,
Disney.
and so and I left Disney. I left Disney, went over to Saudi Arabia to develop menus for key poultry farms there. Had enough of that. Came back to the States and took a different job. And then a young lady who was in charge of his fan club, I met her and gave her my card. 2 weeks later, she called me and she said, "If you want the interview for the job, you have to come right now." And I did. So I went in, cooked for him. I didn't even remember who he was, what he even looked like. I met his assistant first and some other people. And then I see this shadow approaching, this long shadow on the floor. And I'm thinking, God, that's got to be him. And sure enough, he came around the corner and it's this 6'10" giant of a man that towered over me. He said, "How you doing?" And shook my hand, left a little bit where I could see it. and I became his chef. And because I had the nutritional side to me that I picked up in the military and studied, I became his nutritionist as well. And so by going to the team's nutritionist and finding out where the team wanted him because of his weight challenges, that's how it started out. When people saw what happened with the transformation of his body coming into that next season, everybody wanted to know, what did you do? And because of that, it opened up and it made my name great among NBA players. And that's how that business started. And it
Right.
lasted for 27 seasons.
Yeah. Well, Shaq O'Neal, you cook for him. He said, "You allowed for the first time in my entire career to lose weight while inactive."
Yeah, yeah.
And
That was the year the Miami Heat won the championship. And that year, at the beginning of that season, Shaquille had a high ankle sprain. He had a high ankle sprain, and so he couldn't be on his feet. And so he had to spend a lot of time with his leg propped up, other than physical therapy. And I had to find a way to keep his weight down because for 6 weeks he wasn't going to be able to do anything. And so that was a challenge. And he said, "Listen, I need you to make sure I don't put on weight. I don't know how you're going to do it, but just tell me what to do." So I made changes in his diet. He was still a young man. So his metabolism was still pretty fast, even
Good.
with weight challenges. And so I changed his diet and incorporated more seafood, vegetables, fresh fruit, and that alone allowed him to just lose weight while he was inactive, and it just worked out. So between that and physical therapy, that was all he was able to do. And he by the time he came back 6 weeks later, he was still at his playing weight, and that was the trick. So
I mean, you created a business where you had other personal chefs working for other celebrities, and there's a list of names of people that you've cooked for, from
yeah,
Obama to uh,
the king of
stars. I
Sweden.
mean, and I
Yeah,
think you said that, you know, that it humbled you, but they were also humble.
yeah, yeah. It was
And then,
amazing. Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic because we look at people that we see on television, and you don't know that you're going to end up in their house, in their personal space, let alone their kitchen, as the one who's feeding them every day. That requires a level of trust. Not only am I trusting that you're going to not damage what I need to be able to function at a high level, but I have to also leave you in my home. I have to leave you around my family. I have to trust that we made the right choice when we allowed you in this sacred space. And for me, it was don't mess it up.
well, obviously you didn't, you
No, I
know.
didn't.
Yeah.
I did
You're
not.
in trying to describe you on the personal piece, there's so many things that you do. So I put down entrepreneur because I felt like that's part and parcel of things that you're doing. So in listing down items, you're involved with Black Eden. What is Black Eden?
Black Eden is a bourbon company based out of Detroit. There's a town called Idlewild. Idlewild was a small community where African American elite socialites would come and be able to celebrate or relax in a safe space. And that town is called Idlewild. That's the name of it, Idlewild, Michigan. And the nickname for that town is Black Eden. So this bourbon company that is out of Ypsilanti, Michigan, told the story on the back of the bottle. And they show the map of the Great Lake that's in the center of Idlewild, the town. And so they named it Black Eden 1912. And so I partnered with that company. It's an amazing company. I love great bourbons, and it's certainly at the top of the list for me.
So um, it's a bourbon company.
Mhm.
I think the one that I'm just going down the list of things that you've done because there's so many, we could fill a big space, but I like the idea you're the executive chef on Star Vista's Soul Train cruises serving soul food.
Right.
Now, is this like a 2-day cruise? I know you have performers there.
Oh no, it's a 7-day cruise, and we're cooking on an average of 3,000 people each meal every day. In fact, we board that ship 3 days prior, and so it's a real task. We work with the ship's staff, and we have an amazing. They have an amazing executive chef that lends a hand when we're with their staff. So we have to go in and teach them our recipes, and then we only touch the big name items that are going to be the star of the show for that meal. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night snack, and even a takeover of the steakhouse. We do it all.
Yeah, so I know that it's um, what was it? um,
It's amazing
greens.
undertaking.
You were doing greens. It was all
Yeah,
soul food. Uh,
yes, yeah. But we do a little bit more than soul food. That's just the soul food is the main thing. It's the soul train. So we want to
right.
give soul food. But you have to bring soul to food, regardless of what the cuisine is, whether it's Italian, Greek, if it's halal, if it's, whatever it is, you have to bring the soul and put that into the food. So
Yeah.
it's all soul food.
Yeah. Well, as I said, earlier, it's the ability to feed one's soul
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and what we
Absolutely.
put in there. No, that sounds like a fun cruise. Are you able to get out of the kitchen and get to listen to some of the music?
Not this last cruise. I think I went on the last night, and enjoyed some of the comedy and some one of the shows. But for the most part, this last cruise that we did in January we took over 56% of their uh, menu and replaced it with different items. And because of that, we created a whole lot of work for ourselves. But we got it done. And the people were happy. The guests were happy. We have a lot of amazing feedback. And I certainly don't take that for granted. I'm very grateful.
Right. So you've done this for a couple of years,
Yes,
and so you're in, but it sells out pretty quickly from what I was reading.
absolutely.
Like two
We're already
weeks.
sold out for November and February. How cool is that?
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I'm not the one schlepping the food, so I'm happy. I would rather
Dara,
be the
you
guest.
wouldn't
I
come
would
in
ra
the kitchen with us? You wouldn't come in the kitchen and try
I
your hand with us a little bit?
well, I'm 5 foot tall and you have the big pots, so
Uh-huh.
you have to get me a step ladder so I could stir.
We got
No,
that.
I would love to watch.
Yeah,
I
it would be
I
an
worked in
amazing experience.
yeah, I
Yeah,
just showed my
a lot of
jiggly
people.
arms.
A lot,
Uh,
listen, those arms will be rock solid 1 week after working and stirring those big old kettles.
absolutely. Um, you're an author,
I am.
and didn't you know? All right, so let's talk about your journey with self-publishing or publishing. Your first cookbook was Rome,
Mhm.
second cookbook, Carolina Soul.
The first book was Eat Like a Celebrity.
Oh, was that the first book? I didn't
Yeah.
have the book. So the first one was Eat Like a Celebrity. So I
Mhm.
think that sort of
Evolve.
explains a bit.
Yeah, it evolves, right? So let me give you something about that. So quickly, it's Eat Like a Celebrity, Carolina Soul, and Spice and Spectrum. Eat Like a Celebrity is a compilation of sorts from uh, my most requested meals by some of my celebrity clients, as well as family favorites and things like that. It's an introduction to the world of who Jerome Brown is. Um,
Okay.
and then uh, Carolina Soul is about foods that are indigenous to North and South Carolina. The Carolinas used to be one big state. A lot of people
Right.
don't know that. And because of that, you have all of the great food that comes from the mountains to the coast,
Right.
and then the little small hick towns to big city vibes, moonshine to Kool-Aid and lemonade.
And sweet
And,
tea.
and
Sweet
sweet
tea.
tea. Gotta have sweet tea in the Carolinas. Absolutely right.
That's for sure. I mean, I want people to know Spice in the Spectrum,
Mhm.
Recipes for Resilience. And
Right.
this was some work you did along with your wife. And this
Yes.
is a little bit different. So fill people in on that book.
So My wife founded a school in Tinley Park, Illinois, called the I Can Dream Center. It's a school for those on the spectrum, Asperger's, autism, neurodiverse. Now, that book is the reason why I'm married today. So when my wife reached out to me, she was looking to team up with a celebrity chef to write a cookbook, a second cookbook for her school. And she found me on Instagram. She thought that she was looking for a different chef, found me, and thought she was talking to someone different the entire time. And so when she reached out to me, it was during COVID, and it was right in the middle of COVID, as a matter of fact. And so uh, she said, well, she says, okay, so these are the things that I would like to bring you on board for. And, but I'm going on vacation next week and I'll circle back with you when I come back. I said, okay, well, next week I'll be out of the country on business. And she says, well, it's COVID. Where are you going? I said, I'm going to Cabo, but it's a business trip. She said, that's where I'm going. And I said, are you serious? She said, yeah. And so I'm Googling her school while we're talking because I want to see who I'm talking to. I want to know about the school and so on. And then I see this beautiful woman. And so we met in Cabo, and I knew that day I was going to marry her. So I'm grateful to the cookbook that brought us together. And but the book is about resilience because going back to COVID, a lot of people had to overcome a lot of things, especially those who are neurodiverse, those who are on the spectrum. And if you don't have knowledge of what that's about, then you don't know what that all entails. But yes, that book is I attribute that to why I'm married today.
Yes. Yeah. And your wife is Dr. Avisha, right?
Yes, Dr. Evisha Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So people, um, it might, if you know someone who has children on the spectrum, it might be a book to investigate and check
yes,
out. Well,
absolutely.
you have a new cookbook coming out, Noor.
Yes, noir is, you know, noir covers a spectrum, but in French it literally means black.
Right.
And and there's a magazine out there called Noir Cuisine. But here's the thing, I chose that name, or we chose that name, because when we have an idea, we consider that black, just like a canvas.
Okay.
And what are you going to turn this canvas into? How colorful will the finished product become? Orange from cognac glazed carrots. Um, it may be lobster, it may be lasagna, but all of it looks good against a black canvas. And so I kind of use that as my canvas, if you will, for this next cookbook, Noir.
Right. The book comes out what, late summer? When is it out?
Uh, late fall, actually.
Oh, late
Late fall.
fall.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Late fall, the book will be out. So I have to make sure you get one, Dara, and you have to let me know what you cook first.
I look forward to cookbooks.
All
You know,
right.
that when I was selling the house, I had 350 cookbooks. You know,
What?
just a cookbook junkie. I would sell some off,
You probably
and
have some real gems in there.
I did. And there's certain ones that I hung on to, whether it was the inscription
Yeah.
or the person. I was just looking up. There's a recipe by Marcella Hazan that was haricot vert that you blanch, and I don't know where it is. It's not in my recipe file. It could be
Um,
online. But you blanch it and you let it steep in vinegar and some herbs, and then you do another round of something. So I'll have
that
to dig
protects the
that.
bright colors.
It was marjoram. It was some garlic.
Hmm.
I it's been ages since I've made it. But Marcel Hazan, I have Jose Andreas's book,
Okay.
who gave me a personal inscription. I had worked with him on a couple of things
Yeah.
ages ago.
Wow.
And so those were some of the books that I hung on to. And I literally sold my cookbook. Somebody, I had posted online that I was selling some more off. And this one guy who had a restaurant, he says, "Are you selling all of them?" I said, "Not my intention." He says, "Well, don't sell any." He came over. He offered me, understand, I have to get rid of the books. I had offered it to a culinary school. They didn't want it.
Wow.
So he said, "I'll give you $1 a book." I said, "No." I said, $2 a book, and I get to keep 10 books.
Yeah.
And I had to pick out the 10 that meant the most to me for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And now that's probably up to around 25.
Wow. So
You know,
what's your
it,
favorite? What's your favorite?
there's different ones for different things. I think Marcel Hazan, because of the simplicity of her recipes. Her
Hmm.
tomato sauce is San Marzano tomatoes.
Hmm.
Cut an onion in half,
Beautiful. Yeah.
put half a stick of butter, the onion, salt, and crush the tomatoes and simmer it for about 45 minutes until the butter rises. Perfect for anything you want to do.
Voila. Voila. Yeah.
Just
Sometimes,
simplicity.
and I tell people all the time, less is more. Less is more all the time. The moment you start adding a ton of this, that, and the third, you can really lose the integrity of, in that case, the tomato. When it speaks for it's an amazing fruit, it speaks for itself. That's
Yeah.
why I love going to Sicily.
Well, I'd like to get to Sicily, which I'm curious. You've enlisting your TV appearances, extreme chefs ready. There's one, Ready Steady Cook South Africa.
Yeah.
How did you end up in South Africa in a cooking competition?
So there's a comedian named Griff. He does Erica Campbell's morning show, Get Up Morning in the morning shows. And oftentimes, I do this other cruise, the Tom Joyner Fantastic Voyage, one of the culinary council members on that cruise as well. Griff is the lead comedian on that ship. So we developed a friendship. And he says, "Man, I'm headed over to South Africa." We were headed over to do some taping anyway. And he says, I was hit up on this television show that wants me to come on there and bring a friend. I said, okay. And so we get there. I'm thinking we're partnered up. No, we're cooking against each other. So he wanted to try his hand at battling against a real chef. I said, dude, you're gonna lose.
Well, at least
So
you weren't required to do stand up.
no, I couldn't have. I would have failed tremendously. But I tell you what, we had a ton of fun, and it was an amazing opportunity. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And he did not win.
You have your hands in so many different things. I noticed a video on your YouTube. Before I forget, people, his contact information is in the comment section, but on Instagram, he's chef underscore Jerome underscore Brown. And on Facebook, he's Chef Jerome. They're working on a new website. He's working on a salad dressing company, so that's coming. You need to follow him to keep up to date. And I saw something, isn't there a clothing line that's coming out?
Chef jackets. We're gonna create our own line of chef jackets, that will address comfort and breathable material, and using sustainable products that's friendly on the atmosphere and environment. So Yeah, we're just trying to do something different.
Yeah. Well, considering the guy that used to do the beer commercial being the most interesting man, I think he just lost the title because you got a lot going on here. Uh, there's something else. You're doing something else. I saw the video. I had digressed. You were here in Baltimore. You had a crab cake at Coco's, which is my favorite crab cake,
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Jagunda. And you were there with actor Chad Coleman, who played Cuddy on The Wire, and you
mhm.
had just been to the Upton Gym.
Yes.
There's some project going on, or it already happened that tied in with that and you. What's going on
So,
with that?
so the world boxing champion, lightweight champion, or I think middleweight champion, Gervonta Davis, that is the gym that he trains in. And so his trainers, if you remember the show The Wire from back in the day, that's where they did a lot of filming in that entire community and at that gym. And at the time, Davis was 7 years old. So Chad Coleman, when he came in, he met him, saw him at the age of 7, and said, like, who is that? And the guy says, that's going to be world champion one day, and surely he is. And so they're putting together a television show that I'll provide some nutritional things for with the young boxers that are coming up. And so, yeah, it has the potential of doing some really great things.
Terrific, terrific. All right, I think we could talk. I think you, if you meet anybody who enjoys food and you sit, could talk forever. I know you're a busy man, but you're required to answer these questions at the end of the show.
I'm ready.
Um, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self if you could go back and do so?
Pace yourself. Pace
Okay.
yourself and make sure you're well rounded, which is the advice I give the young people now.
Yeah. I think well-rounded, you were saying it's not only learning to cook, it's learning the business of cooking.
Absolutely.
There's two absolutes that they need. What two
Absolutely.
what two things are in your fridge? What two things are a must to be in your fridge?
Butter and fresh herbs.
Okay. Okay. If you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
Wow. Now? I don't know. A singer.
Okay. Okay.
And for the record, I
There's
can't sing, but that would
well,
be it.
you must have gone to my high school and they must have told you to lip sync, right?
A time or two.
Okay. Best bite you've had all week.
The best bite, sweet potato cheesecake.
I
I
saw you
made-
put that on your Instagram.
yeah, but I made another one yesterday.
Do you have
That's
a sweet tooth?
I do. I do. And right now I'm trying to lose, make sure that the stomach, I'll be 58 in a couple of months. So I want to make sure that the stomach's not out there, right? So I have to curb that sweet tooth.
And you got that new wife. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you got
She's
to keep it
gorgeous.
together.
Absolutely.
What was give me one of your epic culinary fails. Tell us about that. There are always fun stories.
That's easy. So I'm a young chef at this time, and this couple is getting married, right? This lady, she's getting married. I don't know her. I'm working at Benvenue Country Club in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and one of the waitresses come in and said, "Hey, would you be willing to help this young couple? They don't have much money. We're going to put together a reception for them, but they need a cake." I said, "Okay, sure. What do you want me to do?" She said, "I want you to make the wedding cake." I said, "Okay, well, how much do they have to?" She says, "I'll pay for the ingredients, but I really need you to do this pro bono for me, if you will." Okay, what's the cake look like? So she shows me this picture of this monstrosity of a cake. The cake's big enough to feed 400 people, right? It was a it was a cathedral cake. It had lights, it had a fountain, it had steps with the little people. Like they wanted to go all out. And I looked at it and I says, okay, now keep in mind, I'd never made a wedding cake before this ever. So I'm winging it, right? So I hit the local stores, I buy all the stuff. There's a kit, I buy the kit, I work on this thing for a week, and never once ask how many guests are going to be there, right? Or how many people are in attendance. But meanwhile, this cake's big enough for 400 people. So the executive chef and the executive sous chef are looking at me and they're like, okay, we can't let you we watched, we wanted to stand back and let you do it, but dude, this is bad. And it's gonna be bad. So we end up making buttercream frosting. And he says, no, I'm gonna show you a different frosting that's gonna work better. Keep in mind it's a hot August day, right? So I I don't know anything about keeping it separated and putting it together once I get to the venue, right? I just learned about dowel rods 2 or 3 days before. How are we going to keep this sitting up? So I tell the young lady, you're going to need a van for this cake. It's big. And I have it on this wooden platform, and I'm covering it up with plastic, just all the wrong things. So she doesn't pull in with a van. She pulls in with a Hyundai hatchback. If I tell you this was, and oh, by the way, the heat is the only thing that works, not the air. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm in the back with the cake. I'm holding the cake up. I'm literally trying to hold the cake up. Meanwhile, it's hot in there. And I'm seeing the icing slide down the side of the cake. And I'm like, oh my God, it's melting. So we get it there. We get it inside as fast as we could. It's a mess. Oh, by the way, when she put on the emergency brake, the cake went. It fell.
Yep.
So we got it inside.
Restack it.
I had extra icing. I dressed it up as best I could. I turned the bad side to the rear so no one could see it. I get it put back together as best as I can, and the bride comes in and she says, "Oh, this is beautiful." I'm like, "Wow, you really have a low bar, lady." I learned my lessons that day, and I became a much better cake maker.
Were you a frustrated baker?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was Chef Elizabeth Faulkner who was on the show at one
Oh,
point, and she tells a story
amazing
about
stuff.
a wedding cake in San Francisco just sliding. The layers were sliding. If memory serves me, which it doesn't do 90% of the time at this age. Um, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
You covered a lot of ground. Um, I guess what's next? What's next? What's next for me is television. We're getting ready to shoot a new sizzle reel. It's time for me to get back onto television on a consistent basis. And in this day and age where society is from 2011 to now, is that so much has changed. People are so far more educated in the culinary world now. You can go right online and become a chef if you study hard enough or fake it. and until we discover you're not. But getting back on television would be that thing now that I think that would be right on time for me.
Right. The it's hard. You know, I just watched, I didn't finish it, the new show with Martha Stewart and Jose Andres. And I adore Jose.
Yeah,
And I start watching, it's Yes Chef or We Chef. And it becomes like they start pitting, they put together chefs who have temperamental issues. And they do a competition. And then they pit them against each other. I went, I don't need to see this. And as much as I love Jose, I just turned it off. I love Top Chef. Um, Tom Colicchio has very specific things. He wants it to be about the food
correct,
and not about the personalities.
correct. Yeah,
Um, so in competition shows, I
yeah,
think there's so many ways to see cooking shows
right.
at this point.
Absolutely.
Um, PBS, you need to get $500,000 to possibly get it on air for 8 episodes.
Right. But I think for me as a chef, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, it should be about the food. It's always about the food. We're just the liaison between the food and the people. That's the order of things, right? And so I feel like if I put a smile on your face, if I make you smile, if I satisfy something in you that you yearned for in the area of food, then I've done my job. That's my reward. I don't need it to be all of the others. The other stuff is opportunity related, right? That just opens up doors. But it's always and must be about the food first.
Well, obviously, I've enjoyed talking to you. It's probably the longest
Yes,
episode I've done. But,
likewise.
that's what it's about. I love food. I love people who love food, create food, who build their lives around it. And most people, it was never the path they initially thought they were going to take.
That's
Never.
exactly right. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Chef Rome, I thank you. Everybody, all the information is in the comment section, which is on Facebook, which is Chef Jerome, and Instagram is Chef underscore Jerome underscore Brown. And there's a lot coming. And the next time you're in Baltimore, let me know.
Absolutely. I can't wait to
Okay.
get back to Coco's.
Well, maybe I'll make you a crab cake.
Let's have it. I'm with
All right.
it.
All the best, continued success, and I look forward to the new cookbook, the salad dressings, the new website, and the TV show.
Thank you, Dara. I appreciate you for having me on.
Okay. Have a good one. Thank you so much. And I'm going to just talk about who's going to be on the show next week and wrap up. Okay, everyone. Feel free to reach out to me via my email, which is food@jmoreliving.com, or on Instagram at Dara Cooks, or on Facebook. I do have a page called The Food Enthusiast. Next week's guest will be award-winning actor and filmmaker Richard S. Sargent. His new swoon-worthy cookbook, The Ultimate Chick Flick Cookbook, shares the thoughtful food and cocktail pairings of fan-favorite films. We'll chat about his journey merging food and films and tips for hosting an unforgettable movie night. And here is the book. Okay. And, you're talking about um, like When Harry Met Sally, Love Story, Bridget Jones' Diary, that there are always different great chick flick movie recipes to be had and cocktails. You can sign up at jmoreliving.com for the free This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter. Go to jmoreliving.com. On the up menu, click on Connect and fill out the form. And every Tuesday, you will get an email with updates on new restaurants, recipes, videos of my show, whatever's going on in Baltimore restaurants in that week. All our shows are immediately archived in video form on Jamore Living's Facebook page and jamoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. As I'd like to end the show, may your plates always remain full, and I hope to see you here next Thursday.